Now that Auburn has quarterback commit Peyton Falzone in their class, it changes a lot moving forward.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Brian Smith, Locked On recruiting insider and expert, hanging out with us. He hosts the Portal, Locked On's daily recruiting transfer portal NIL show. Be sure to check it out. We'll talk about Auburn's 2026 class and where we are, as well as some important dates to follow in the coming week. Very, very exciting stuff, potentially. Who could pop next amongst these recruits that Auburn's pursuing? But when we talked about it on Thursday with Peyton Falzone, the four-star formerly committed to Penn State quarterback, flips to Auburn out of the blue. Exciting stuff. But now that you have a quarterback in your class, it does change how people view your recruiting class, both analysts and recruits alike, Brian.
100%. Let's start with the analysts. It's one of the first things I look at. I don't care if you're Kansas State or Cal Poly. If you don't have a quarterback in your class, it's not a complete class. That's just the way that works. And
is that fair? Is that 100% accurate? No, but that's what we do, right?
It is. That's a good point.
And what do we say about recruiting, right? Perception is reality.
All the time, every day of the year. So the other part of that is the recruiting with wide receiver and tight end. It's good to at least know who the heck's going to throw you the football. So, okay, we got Deuce last year. If I get to play with him, great. But if I know who's the next guy, you're going to ask that if you're getting the ball thrown to you at every single school. You're going to go look their film up. I have conversations with these kids. This is something that happens. So I'm curious what these kids think, because he's a northern kid. There's probably going to be a lot of film watching because nobody knows who he is down at South, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that's a part of it. And then finally, I don't know him, but with this, I'm assuming that he's going to want to reach out to Ward only knows how many different receivers, kids that are committed, kids that are not committed, kids they want to flip. It is very valuable. When the quarterback of a class, again, doesn't matter what school, reaches out, you're more likely to respond. Perception's reality because he is the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, once again, whether it's fair or not, that's a conversation for a different day. But quarterbacks are the face of a team. It's a face of a class. It's the identity of who you are as a group. Now, you see some people try to dress it up. You see others say, hey, you're the guy leading us. It's the whole, are you the horse or are you the wagon? It doesn't matter. If you're a quarterback, it all revolves around you from a perception standpoint. And so I think with some of these guys that Auburn has been talking to, well, let me back up. This is a different situation than what we saw last year, not 2 years ago, because 2 years ago, Walker White got the class rolling pretty early when Hugh Freeze got him away from Clemson at that final hour. That was super dramatic, super, super exciting. Last year was kind of an exception to the rule that Auburn built this incredible class without Deuce Knight. And for a long time, they thought it might be Juju Lewis in the class. And so maybe they were pitching part of that. And then they were pitching Deuce Knight, and Deuce Knight was there all the time, but he was still committed to Notre Dame. It was this really weird dynamic. And I remember you and I talking about it in real time. This is unusual. The fact that they were able to get all these pieces without the quarterback being officially in the boat was pretty unusual. And so now, with Auburn kind of being behind the eight ball over the last week or so until Falzone flipped, this is only going to help you.
Yeah, it was important, number one, for momentum. It was weird. The trends, Auburn's been super hot or super cold in recruiting this year. Again, it's very random. But getting him, put the spotlight back on them, and they've got, I don't know how many, but in the next 2 weeks, half dozen or so important possible commitments, it's going to help them because they got a quarterback.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to talk to some of these kids if he hasn't already. So that's also an important factor. So I think it's good that they got one because there aren't many teams left that you would think of as major programs without a QB. Auburn was one of the last, to be honest. So now that's over with, and that's probably a relief for the staff, I'm sure.
Yeah. Before we get into the guys that have dates set, because those are defensive guys we're talking about. I mean, you mentioned pass catchers. Sure, that's certainly part of it. But tackles want to block for a guy. They don't want to block for just some schmuck back there. They want to block for a guy that they can trust. Like, oh, okay, when we see the ball being thrown in front of us, it's going to be where it's supposed to go. Wilson Zeire, his recruitment has been fascinating because, I mean, I don't care where he's ranked because I still think he's underranked on all these because of where he goes to school. I mean, he just emerged earlier this year, started going everywhere. Now everybody wants him. And it's become more of a battle up to this point than I personally expected it to be. Alabama feels pretty good, it seems like, about Wilson Zeire. Of course, the younger brother of former Auburn tackle Killian Zire. This guy's an Auburn fan. I'm a little shocked, and I don't want to say disappointed or discouraged, but I'm some sort of negative emotion about it. Bummed that Auburn hasn't locked this up yet.
This is recruiting. I mean, he told me to my face that he was an Auburn fan, that he always goes and watches Auburn. That's the school he's followed, all that. Yeah. So I just figured this would be a slam dunk. We're a couple months later, and he still hasn't decided. But full disclosure, he went from mid-level offers to all of a sudden the entire upper echelon of the SEC. It was like overnight. It was really fast. I don't know why that was, if his film went out or what it was. But Bama and Georgia offered almost simultaneously. And once you get those two offers, the floodgates have, as I say, opened.
Yeah, it changes who you are as a recruit when that happens.
100%. Yeah, now there's nothing that you get that's surprising. If you get Auburn, it's one thing, and then you get Alabama, but you get Georgia too. It's just boom, boom, boom. That's impressive. So I think he just wanted to take the visits. Maybe he does like Alabama. He's probably surprised by that too, because he's always rooted against them.
Yeah. No, I'm sure whatever they're pitching is appealing. So we'll see. If I'm Auburn, I'm pushing hard here as much as you can with it being, dead period and all that. But it also seems like FSU is part of it, which why you would want to play for Herb Hand at this point, I don't know, but that's where we are.
I like Herb personally. He's a nice guy. And he's
sure
good guys, but he was part of the tackle problem at Auburn, if I remember correctly.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
you're telling me.
I don't know. It's a weird deal. Kids really like the relationships over everything else. Fans look at it from a school perspective. Recruits do not. I know that's not what fans want to hear, but recruits pick coaches, not schools.
Yeah, and offensive linemen, I think too. I mean, they're going to be traditionally more loyal to people, I think, than other positions. You're not seeing as many elite ones in the portal for a reason. I think personality has to do with that, and then I also obviously the implication of, hey, we don't want to lose good O-linemen. We're going to pay you more to stay is certainly part of it, but I think personality plays into it as well. So we'll see what happens with Wilson Zeire. I want him in Auburn's class bad, Brian. We'll see if it happens. Another name that we expect to pop soon in favor of Auburn, at least I do. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it, Brian, as well as two defenders that have dates set that I think could be leaning Auburn's direction. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. You can bet on anything over at FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing. So whether you love the baseball under the lights or the golf on the greens or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel's the best way to make every game even more entertaining. If you believe in the Atlanta Braves, be sure to head over to FanDuel and put your money where your mouth is. Or, of course, there's some Auburn futures there. Auburn -2.5 at Baylor and Waco to start the season. And, of course, just over-under win totals at 7.5. So if you believe 8-4 or better is happening, or vice versa, 7-5 or worse, head over to FanDuel and go ahead and put your money where your mouth is. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Brian Smith, our guest today. Thanks for making Locked On Auburn your first listen. Make the portal with Brian Smith your second listen today. Another guy that we expect to pop soon, and it certainly seems like Auburn's in good standing, Dequz Wilks, the 6'4" edge product out of Wadley, which is very, very exciting. This is a prospect or recruit that, I mean, Miami wants him. Texas A&M seems to want him. Early on, we thought this would be more of like a traditional Iron Bowl recruiting. I'm not really hearing much Bama to him. So I don't know. A lot of people feel really good about Auburn's chances with Wilkes.
It's ironic. He grew up a Bama fan, but he just didn't feel it when he visited Bama. That's what I was told. That's why
I love hearing that. I love hearing that so much.
I just reported
you don't hear it often, Brian.
It's random. I heard he didn't really like the Georgia visit too. To hear both of those from one player is
sounds like my kind of guy. You're an Auburn Tigers. What it sounds like to me.
But he's a nice kid. He's pretty quiet. I've seen him play basketball. He's a dominant high school player. Auburn looks like they're going to win out here. I think this is a kid that you can put it. For full disclosure, he plays middle linebacker, running back at the 1A level in high school to get him, in the middle of the fray on every play. But he's not going to play those spots, I don't think, at the next level.
Yeah.
He's going to put his hand in the dirt or be an outside linebacker. And, I mean, you could play him at tight end or something. He's a really good athlete, but that'd be wasting his talent. Put him at edge.
Brian, have you heard anything about his weight? I know 247 has him at 6'4", 220. You think he's going to put his hand in there to the next level? Have you heard anything about his weight, or is that kind of where he's hanging out at? It's gone up.
Yeah, he weighs quite a bit more than 220. I'll leave it at that. Okay. And his frame, keep in mind, when you play basketball, that is a ton of calories you're burning.
You're right. Sure.
Endurance. So when he stops playing basketball and he works on powerlifting more, I think 260 will be no problem.
Yeah, so, diet, nutrition, all that. Yeah, his frame can handle it for sure. For sure. So to my knowledge, he has not set a date. And I'm double checking that. Yeah, has not set a date. So we'll see what happens with Dequz Wilks. We'll see. Somebody who has set a date, Ernest Rankins, the defensive lineman from Southwest DeKalb, Decatur, Georgia, native. Auburn folks seem to like their chances. Seems like Vontrell King-Williams has been all over this guy. We haven't talked about him in a bit. We talked about him maybe a month ago, but this is a really good player, and Auburn feels good about their chances with him. But I mean, he's got crystal balls to Georgia as well.
I can't remember which person it was in the Auburn media, but I was told he was the number one guy early on at D tackle, and I'm like, okay, because Auburn's D tackle board this year was really good. So, and he walked into the facility, and I'm like, holy cow, because usually these height and weights are garbage. They're not accurate.
Sure.
Kids are always way shorter and all that. He's 6'6". I mean, he looks like the prototypical rare defensive tackle you see at Georgia. Straight up, he looks like the kid that plays for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, sure.
If you get that kid, that's a win. I'm not
to go into Decatur and get a guy like that Georgia's interested in. I mean,
that's huge.
We're taking all the wins. I mean, that'd be a big win for Auburn. Ernest Rankins.
Yeah, Georgia would take that kid. Clemson would take that kid, etc. Like, he's as good an upside prospect in the state of Georgia as there is, because his length and size are rare. So yeah, that's a major recruiting win for any school that would win his recruitment. But Auburn prioritized him early, and like I always say, Zach, relationships. They did a good job, and they kept getting him back to campus. So they went out.
He's not related to Sheldon Rankins in any way, is he? I've looked. I don't see any note about it. I don't know how the age or the timing would make sense for that to happen, but
could
I don't know. You see good defensive lineman with last name Rankins. It's like Sheldon Rankins was a dude. So I don't know.
Possible. I could.
Usually they have all that listed, like family members that played and stuff on their pages, and it's not there. So I don't know. Just asking the question. Another guy, we've talked about him a lot last few weeks, Adam Balagon Ali. He's announcing on July 6th. Of course, the Cardinal Newman, West Palm Beach kid, linebacker, 4-star. I mean, I think he's a really, really good player. He's kind of flown under the radar as far as attention goes, not from a ranking standpoint, from an attention standpoint. But it seems like Auburn's in a better spot for him than Missouri and Kentucky is. Are you hearing the same thing?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Auburn, but I haven't spoken to him in quite a while. Good kid, been to campus multiple times. And again, early priority for Auburn staff. South Florida kid that they've gotten up to the Plains multiple times. It's just a good job of recruiting. And full disclosure, This isn't a normal high school linebacker. He's been productive forever. He led his team in tackles as a freshman. So This is a kid that natural inside linebacker, not the biggest guy, but he's a modern linebacker that can cover as well as play the run. So finding 3-down linebackers is not easy.
If Auburn were to land, let's just say all of these guys. Let's dream for a second. Why not? Wilson Zeire, Dequz Wilks, Ernest Rankins, Balagon Ali in the next 2 weeks, assuming that's the timeline for Wilkes and Zire. I don't see dates for them. How would you feel on that?
Well, those are all really good players that they prioritized, and I happen to like all of them in terms of their film and everything. I'm obviously not very shy, but those are guys that can play at the upper echelon of the SEC. So that's how you improve your roster, just getting better players. The only question I have about that is who else do you get? Because this week is literally the creme de la creme for weeks of announcements. It's going to be insanity. There's so many kids announcing it's going to be comedy relief. So Auburn may get somebody else. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be as random as Peyton Falzone, but that's still one of the all-time hilarious moments to me when you texted me that. I'm like, what? So
yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm free. What do you need? What do you need right now? Why?
Yeah, that was so weird. But anyway, they're going to get somebody else we're not even talking about. I would almost wager it. It's just the math.
Yeah.
I don't know who else it's going to be, but they're going to get somebody else.
Yeah. I think that'd be fantastic. And is it enough though to like override all of the negative feelings about Auburn recruiting for the last month and a half? Is it enough to override all that if you have those types? I mean, you obviously lost Devin Carter and Shadarius Tootle. Is there a big drop off between Tootle and Balagon Ali? I don't think it's crazy. I think it's really close. I think I'd still like slightly prefer Tootle. I'm not like trying to cope or anything like that. But then obviously you don't have a receiver coming in that is as good as Devin Carter. But is it enough?
I would say for the Auburn fan, no. And it's not because of what Auburn's doing. It's what Alabama and Georgia are doing.
Okay.
Let's be honest. That's you and I talk about that too. Auburn fans are always looking at the main two schools they compete with and vice versa. And those two schools are on heaters. So I say no. But correct me if I'm wrong. Auburn does not plan to take as big a class this year. Is that accurate?
That's what I've heard.
Okay.
So
that's the case. Then you're not going to be able to match apples to apples with what Georgia and Bama are doing this year. It's just the randomness of recruiting.
Yeah. I mean, the talk and the chatter is they spent so much money last year, both in high school and in the portal, that they knew they'd be lighter this year because it would be more about just winning. At least that's the messaging I'm hearing coming from the program. I don't know how much of that is like it dresses up what's happening. I mean, it makes sense, right? But I don't know. Sometimes it feels like that just dresses up what's happening because like you still, I feel like should be in a better spot now on the recruiting front than you are. But I get it. I mean, if I think some of the troubles and the flips have more to do with NIL than the whole like, oh, you've got to win thing that's going around. That's just what I'm hearing, and that's my personal opinion on it. That's not me saying that if Auburn had won more games, they wouldn't be in a better spot. Obviously, if you win more, it helps you. But I don't think that's as when you're losing folks to FSU, which is in a worse spot than Auburn, I think. So I think more of this is NIL that people are letting on, and that would make sense with the rumbling going around about expected class size this year.
Well, I talked to Devin face to face at Rivals 5-Star. He told me Florida State's offer was way higher than Auburn's.
There you go.
I mean, I have no
that tracks what I've heard. Yeah.
So
I think you could. I would guess the Tootle situation with Georgia is the same thing.
Would not surprise me in the least. So if it's really close in recruitment, but the NIL is way different, it's pretty self-explanatory from that point. I have no idea what Georgia's numbers are. They do things a little different, but if Auburn's down on their payment, and let's be honest, Kirby likes him a linebacker or two. They go out of the way for it, probably more than any other school. So I get it.
Yeah. No, you got to win more from a frustrated fan. It's easier to say. Like, I don't think that's all of it. That's just my opinion. I don't think that's all of it. All right. So you've had like a crazy last like 5, 6, 7 days traveling around the country for recruiting. I want you to kind of give us an update on everything that's going on. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. So, like, you've literally been all over the country. You went up to Indianapolis for the Rivals thing. You went down to IMG for some stuff. Where all have you been? Brian?
Those are the two. I was so wore out, I didn't even go to OT7. I was just too wore out. It's so hot.
Yeah, it sounds exhausting. Long days.
Yeah, it was hot enough in Indianapolis. By the way, note to the Indianapolis Colts, the billionaire organization, for your indoor facility, please add air conditioning.
Nice.
For the love of mankind. Anyway. I went to the Rivals 5-star camp, the elite players from all across the country. It was a blast. That's where I saw Devin Carter among many other players. Then I just went to Future 50, which is invite only, top recruits for the class of 27. Cam Coleman's little brother, I'll talk about him in a second, was there.
Right.
And it was a blast. And it's a lot of fun, but you have to see these kids live. You get an idea of their personalities and you start formulating, okay, this kid would fit here, this kid would fit here. And all of us, Chad Simmons, Andrew Ivins, John Garcia, all kinds of people at these events, we all talk and get ideas on what's going on. But it's where these kids compete, and that's where the rankings come from. We want to see elite against elite to put out rankings. Mine, Rivals, anybody else's, and that's what we did. So the kid that I actually mentioned to you, he's committed to Bama. He's a 27 kid, but he just visited Auburn again for like, gosh, 4th, 5th time. Guerrero, the defensive end from Mobile, is a 27 kid, great prospect. Could be another Iron Bowl battle. Defensive, a great kid. I saw him and I'm like, that's what it's supposed to look like. Him coming out of the stands, it's like, okay, it was a 3-second evaluation, Zach. It's a 3-second evaluation.
Sure. Sometimes it's that easy, right? Just don't overthink it. It's like, yep, that looks different than everybody else. Yep.
And he's a great kid too. So yeah, but Auburn trying to flip a kid from Alabama. Where have you?
Did you talk to him? Did you ask him about all the visits? Like, what did he say to you?
Florida State and Auburn are the two that have a chance. It's typical Mobile kid. I mean, it's right down the pipe. Grew up a Bama fan, but he wants to give everybody a chance, and he's taking visits.
Got it.
That is traditional as it gets. He's conservatively a top 100 recruit, and he was, I think, state defensive player of the year as a sophomore. Like that's
crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, you don't do that. So yeah, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. So good for him. But I was just like, okay. But 20 sack guys, those are big thumbs up.
Yeah, no, there's not many of those guys around, and so a lot of people want them, right? Yeah, you just alluded to him. Cam Coleman's younger brother, Bobby Coleman Jr., quarterback. You sent me a few videos, and you posted a few videos of him throwing. You said he had some good balls. Like, what are you expecting from how his recruitment unfolds? Because I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, when I sent you that text, you're like, what?
Yeah, like I knew Cam's little brother played quarterback, but at the event you were at, I don't know. I don't want to sound bad, but like I didn't expect him to be there.
I didn't know who was going to be there. And like the week of, we always get the list. And he was on there. I'm like, oh, he must have taken a jump because I didn't even know how much he played last year. I didn't go watch Central. But obviously, I'd seen him at Elite 11 and stuff. But
yeah,
sometimes kids make that event based on their name and their upside because they didn't even start the year before. Bobby can spin it. He's just not the biggest guy. Like
he's a rising junior, correct?
That is correct. All these kids are Future 50 or class of 27.
27. Okay.
Bobby is 5'11", 6 foot, and he's a mobile quarterback, but he can throw it from the pocket and spin it. He's pretty accurate, and he's very intelligent. Real down-to-earth kid. His personality is pretty much like Cam's, to be honest, but they are not built the same. Cam is 6'4", and Bobby's maybe 6 foot. I don't even know if he's 6 foot yet. So different players, but same family. So
his offer list is tremendous. Georgia, Texas A&M.
I know.
Is the chatter of, if he's at this event, like the chatter around him is probably quarterback. Is that fair? Or do you think it was, do you think they want him to do something else?
The only thing he did was quarterback.
Yeah.
He looked good in 7-on-7 against elite defensive backs, like 5-star DBs. That's all I needed. I'm like, he's going to play somewhere. If you can throw the ball into tight windows against the guys that I saw, there were multiple 6'2" corners at this event. Like, it's every DB that played last night is a kid that could play at Auburn.
The quarterback picture in the state next year is super interesting. You got the Gunnar Rivers kid, whom I think most outlets have as the number one player in the state in 27, from Fairhope. And then you've got Trent Seaborn, who led Thompson to a state championship as like a freshman or something. It was crazy. And there's been a lot of chatter about those guys. And then you've got Bobby Coleman, who it seems like he's starting an ascension. Auburn is going to be in an interesting spot as far as like which quarterback do they pursue the hardest in 27.
I don't know how you do that stuff. I really don't. Because you got to get a feeler out so you have an idea. And for the record, yes, Rivers, if you think it's Philip Rivers' kid, it is. And like they are doing no media. I mean, none. So it's it's basically Arch Manning all over again, which is no good for me, but whatever. I don't know where he wants his kid to go. For those who don't remember, Philip played at NC State. I don't think that really plays much of a role. But like Texas and everybody else are going to get a visit from him. Where he goes, I don't know. I'm sure Auburn's recruiting the crap out of him.
I mean, it seems like Auburn's been all over Trent Seaborn since he was a freshman. I mean, he won that championship game in Jordan-Hare. And
that's right.
Like, that's right. Kind of put himself on the map. I'm sure they knew about him before then, but yeah, I'm just curious to see what happens with that recruitment. Or do they go out of state and just kind of say like, man, it's a good year in state for quarterbacks, but maybe they have their guy outside of state. I don't know. They just got a guy from Pennsylvania. So who knows?
That is true.
Who knows? But always fun to kind of speculate and guess how that's going to go. So, Brian, how can people check out everything you've got going on? And it's a lot.
It is, especially if you like short videos. You can check me out at the Portal Podcast. Make sure if you go to YouTube, you check out the Portal Podcast. I have videos lined up all the way towards the end of July, just video clips from about Future 50, Rivals Camp, and I'm not even halfway through them yet. I've got videos and photos to post, and anything going on with recruiting, NIL, and the transfer portal, Portal Podcast got you covered.
Yep. Hey, please like the video, please subscribe, and we will see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.